In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Loving Father, we thank you for giving us this opportunity to be together, to reflect on things that matter in our lives, namely forming and educating our people, citizens of the world, citizens of heaven. May your Spirit be with us to guide all our thoughts, all our intuitions, so that what we bring may really be according to your will and bear fruits, and fruits that may make our life, our country better. We ask this through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Honorable Amanya Mushaga, my brothers and sisters, I give a special greetings to the bishops, acknowledge their presence. They told me that I'm LC1 here. So as LC1, I'll introduce the bishops to you, and then the program is as follows. After introducing the bishops, we shall hand over to our education secretary, who will then be the master of ceremonies and everything. But for now, just to welcome you and to welcome the two bishops. The reason the two bishops are here instead of 28 is calculated. The bishops thought power is invested in these two as their representatives. They just finished the meeting and the chairman is not able to be present, but Bishop Santos Linus Wanok, the Bishop of Lera, the Bishop in white, is the vice chairman. So the whole conference is here. Bishop used to be in charge of education, what we may call a commissioner. That's how we call them in the church. But he should be carrying the ministerial plate on his car. They call him the chairman of the commission. And it was Bishop Santos Lino Wanok for the last 8 years. So now he has become the vice chairman of the conference. The one who has succeeded him as a minister of education now, or as a commissioner, is no less than Bishop Raphael Wokorach, who is the Bishop of Nebi. He succeeded him in Nebi, now he has succeeded him here in education. So it is a succession. Bishop is new in Nebi, but is very familiar with a lot of work and so forth. He lived for a bit of time in the Vatican, so he knows everything pretty well. These two have all the authority on behalf of all the bishops of Uganda to say what was agreed by the bishops. So just welcome them, and I hand over to them. LC1 cannot talk too long. Thank you very much. So Father Kelo, you are in charge of the business.
Thank you, Monsignor. LC1. Next on our program is a remark from the Vice Chair to give his opening remark.
Allow me to stand so that I can speak. I'm feeling suffocated when I'm bent. So, praise God, now and forever. Honorable Amanya Mushega, Mugole Joseph, Yusuf Subuga, and your team who have come today We are greatly honored to have you under this meeting tent in the Uganda Catholic Secretariat for a very important exercise which we are here for today. And as you know more than I do, that education is the key for opening all other sectors. In the Catholic Church, we have education and we have health, and then we have catechesis, which is symbolized by the church. Wherever you see the church, they represent the catechism, the direction showing us who is God and where is He. And the Bible is the answer to that. And that question is answered in the church and is taught in the church. And to deepen this, it needs a scientific approach. Somebody, the catechumen, is sent to school, which is always next to the church. You can't separate it because from the church to the school. And then the third one is the health, is next to the church, because we need to be repaired when we are harmed or when you are sick in order to listen well to the words of God. And also, so these three aspects cannot be separated ever with the church standing. They stand on the same land. That's why many times we have problem when people want to separate, dissect the church and then the land. So it is in this same vein, we would like really to welcome you very wholeheartedly and to have the mind of the bishops who have just been meeting presented to you as our guidance in this whole country. The education sector has experienced, as we know, rapid pace and scope of reforms over the past decades, and this has been amidst positive and negative impacts. Consequently, education in Uganda has experienced, like many other parts of the world, decline in quality of education, poor academic performance, high teacher-student ratio, secularization, contradicting our motto, for God and my country, inadequate preparation of teachers, exam-oriented type of education has entered, and inadequate understanding of the principle of subsidiarity. Honorable, this document offers proposals from the Uganda Episcopal Conference towards the development of new macro policy framework for Uganda and sports for Uganda. It addresses critical issues pertaining to funding, quality of research, teacher training, and the different levels of education in Uganda in relation to government white paper on education of 1992, which I think you are very prominent and central in this. It also expresses our concern for some current issues which, though not directly addressed by the white paper, but are implied. This paper is as a result of consultation with some educational stakeholders in the Catholic Church, parents, management, and technical staff. The report also captures the Uganda Episcopal Conference education policy of 1997, which was a response to the white paper and what they call Kajubi Educational Policy Report of 1989. In these issues, funding for the university and so forth, this has been a very common phenomenon in what is destructive to many of the issues which we were trying to put in place. And sometimes it brought a bit of inconveniences. You know, the mushrooming universities. Each one wants the government hand there and there. And this paper tried to address. So this document offers proposal, and which we want that it should be synchronized in our thought system. This paper is a result of consultation, and which every bishop has a mind to this. We also are presenting to you two more other important documents so that you may know how we are thinking alongside our issue paper that contains the philosophy of education guiding the Catholic Church, namely the education policy of 1997 and reflection and guidelines on the education of the human person. And these documents are, I think, enshrined here. There are two documents which we usually use, and this we shall give you also to reflect with us on this. And it is our prayer, therefore, Your Honorable and your team, that we have a fruitful discussion as we work together towards the shaping of education in our beloved Uganda, which we always salute as for God and my country. May God bless us and keep us always united to achieve the Uganda we want to be. Thank you very much. In this same vein, I would like to ask our secretary to give the actual presentation. Since he typed it, I will not be able to read his handwriting and typing very well, but he will give us an overview very effectively. So, Kelo, can you help us to pass through the proposed reform?
Thank you, my Lord Bishop. Maybe before I give our position as Catholic Church, I would love to give the microphone to Honorable Amanya Mushega to say a few words before I give our position.
When the bishop stand up, you can't sit down. Otherwise, the Lord may misunderstand me. My Lord Bishop Wanok and Bishop Wakwarachi, we thank you for coming us here. Our job is simple, is to listen to you. We have listened to other religious bodies, so far the Church of Uganda and then the Islamic faith. We went to Old Kampala, just in case people don't think we have been everywhere. So our job is simple. We want to listen to as many institutions, as many Ugandans and non-Ugandans as we can fit in our short programs. Refer to as many documents as possible. The purpose is that at the end of the day, what comes out will be reflections of what the majority of Ugandans think is not right with the education system, and what should be done to fix it. Not the views of the chairperson and the commissioners. We are just a pipe through which you should pass, but it's a pipe which also thinks, so they will be absorbed. So that at the end of the day, with the paper that comes out and recommendations, there's a broad ownership by Ugandans, not referring it to as the commission, as the government commission, but a commission that reflects the thinking of Ugandans. So that's our main purpose today. We read through some of your documents. Some are quite provocative and challenge the mind. But since my brother here was boasting of having had a bishop paid his school fees, actually the retired Archbishop from Mbarara is my nephew from the same village, so I'm connected with the Catholic Church by osmosis. So, and we grew up together, and our parents used to enjoy life together. Maybe, so we listen, then our purpose is to ask you questions, then you clarify. The commissioners only, this is the work of the commission, not anybody else. The rest, I request the press is to record what we picked from the Catholic Secretariat. Not the interviews they carry on the sideline, because sometimes they go on outside the gate and start to interrogate you. Then the news they read in the evening have nothing to do with what we listen to when we came here. Then at the end of the day, you may write views, they say, but that's not what the views the Catholics said. So we need coordination so that what comes out is. So we will ask you some questions, some clarifications, and we shall go back and interrogate them and observe some of them. And if need arises, we may come to you again for further and better information, so that what comes out at the end of the day is useful to all Ugandans. We thank you for welcoming us, and then you can go ahead and proceed to read your paper. We listen, we take notes, and then we interact a little bit more, and we call it a day. Thank you so much.
My Lord Bishops, the chair of the commission, and the members present here, I have the honor and privilege to present the position of the Catholic Church, which I must begin to say are enshrined in these two documents that my Lord Bishop mentioned earlier on. That is the education policy of 1997, and then the reflections and guidelines on the education of the human person. And from the Catholic perspective, these two documents have the philosophy of education in the Catholic Church. In response to your request to us to give our opinion, the Catholic Church has the following areas of emphasis that we feel should be taken note of as you review education policy in Uganda. And our first issue is on the funding of public universities. I may not read all that is here. The documents are going to be available to you. You ask us to give the justification, make reference to government white paper, and also present the current status, which in the interest of time, I may not go through all of them, but mention our key areas of emphasis that we feel should be included in the policy review. The first, as I said, on the issue of funding of public universities, we are saying that government should regulate tuition, limiting the minimum and maximum for all universities, and also regulate charges on private students in universities. We are also proposing that government should increase funding for students' loan scheme and create a better recovery system to enable our universities to be at par in terms of facilitations with our neighboring countries. And also we are suggesting and recommending to this commission that government should support private universities for their structural development of pedagogical facilities, laboratories and science equipments, libraries and teaching aids for special needs, among others. We are also saying that government should consider both public and private universities for resource allocation, including loan scheme and students' financing, because even students in private universities are citizens. Also, we are suggesting that government should set up a fund which should be managed by a board to strengthen both new and old universities, and that student lecture rates should be standardized to ensure efficient teaching and learning. Lastly, to ensure higher education institutions redesign their curricula to reflect government priorities. We also gave our opinion on quality of research in higher education institutions. And as a justification, we know research is an important and critical for universities and for the existence of the university. And therefore, we are proposing and recommending that government fund for research be increased adequately, and that there be continuous professional training for respective lecturers who teach research methodology. That National Council for Higher Education closely monitor the teaching of research courses in higher education institutions to ensure that quality research is done with emphasis on credibility. And that also we are proposing that government should encourage and support publication of innovative research findings, such as incentivizing publication and implementation of findings. And we are also saying that government research innovation fund, which currently sit mostly at Makerere University, be extended considerably to other universities, including the private ones. And on teaching and vocational education, we are recommending and emphasizing that government design mechanisms of equipping graduates with startup capital to enable them apply the skills that they gained from those institutions that they go through. And that government streamline the operations of different examining bodies, and special reference, we are talking about TVET and DIT. That government-private partnerships be strengthened in order to develop the technical and vocational education, especially those that are private in nature. On secondary education, the bishops and the Catholic Church is recommending the following and emphasizing on them: that secondary education be provided for all, thus enhancing equal opportunities. Because the current status is that only schools that are under government are being funded. And yet we have so many students in private secondary schools. Career guidance and counseling be enhanced in the secondary schools in order to equip learners with the available options to take in academic pursuit. We are also suggesting that capitation grant be increased from time to time to facilitate secondary education. And still on government-private partnership, we are encouraging that it be strengthened so that uniformity is achieved in provision of secondary education. That grant aiding be given to already existing secondary schools in every sub-county, especially those that are private, instead of opening so many of these seed schools already where there are schools. And also we are saying that Parent Teachers Association be recognized beyond that of mobilizing funds, as it is mentioned in the government white paper on education, number 208 and 573. Teacher training. We are saying that training of teachers for all levels of education must be provided, and that school practice exercise in public and private universities be financed and conducted for extended period of time in order to ensure more practice, and also to ensure that those who are coming out of those universities have the required skills to pass on to the learners, as opposed to the current status where those under government sponsorships are the ones who are supported, and yet the others also are being prepared for service in this country. The tutors and lecturers at school practice site also be paid by government to supervise learners on school practice. We're also suggesting that automatic promotion be considered for teachers who have upgraded their academic levels or qualifications, and that be put at the right salary scales. We realize that at times people who enter through grade 5 retire at that level even when they have PhD. So there should be that automatic promotion that should be considered at that level so that all are at par. And lastly, we are also recommending that and emphasizing that the foundation bodies be included in the UNITE, because our NTCs and PTCs that are going to be taken over and placed under UNITE, we suggest that we be represented at that level so that the mission, the vision, and the values that we have been imparting in those institutions continues. On special needs, still under teacher training, we are also giving the following recommendations that all special needs education teachers be trained to teach persons with special need to meet the demand of inclusive education. However, each teacher should specialize in a particular disability as opposed to the current training that is rather giving the umbrella kind of training. Teachers be trained in teaching subjects while allowing for their incorporation of content on teaching learners with special needs in their teacher preparation program. And that teachers training colleges and universities review the teacher preparation program to train teachers for learners with special need. And that more institutions offering special needs education be established, preferably in every region or attached to public and private universities as a department under the Faculty of Education. On teacher training for early childhood development education, we are saying the following, that all ECDE teachers be well trained and adequately remunerated, just like other teachers in both primary and secondary. And thus the choice of becoming a teacher of a particular level should not be based on income, but interest. We are also saying that free and compulsory pre-primary education be for all, because that is the foundation of learning. Because if you're providing it at UPE and USE and leaving that level that is critical and the first stage of education, it should also be considered by government. And we're also saying that NCDC should provide and implement a uniform curriculum for all early childhood development schools, and that teachers for early childhood development education be trained in recognized institutions as opposed to the many that are providing training to them, and tracking record of what is being taught is a problem. And that also we are suggesting, among others, that ECD centers be attached to every primary school in this country. And on operation of primary schools in Uganda, the Catholic Church is recommending the following. That all languages used as a medium of instruction at all levels of learning be examined nationally to assess the competency of the learners, and that emphasis be put on the examination of vocational subjects like agriculture and integrated production skills that are taught at the primary level, and that salaries be commensurate to the advancement level of the teachers in furtherance of their education endeavors. A policy should be provided, a policy to provide guidelines on automatic promotion implementation in the primary schools be provided to ensure continuity and retention of the learners in schools, and it shouldn't be implemented indiscriminately. Another assessment is an important factor of gauging the performance of learners and must not be left out at all levels. We are also suggesting that capitation grant be increased by government to facilitate education in primary schools. We are also concerned as a church on some critical issues that are not in the government white paper, but we feel are very important that be considered as you review education policy. On secondary school curriculum and CRE, we are concerned about the new secondary school curriculum, particularly in regard to the teaching of CRE in our Catholic foundation schools, that make it optional at senior 3 and 4 and compulsory at senior 1 and 2. We are facing many challenges in the school like homosexuality, drug abuse, alcoholism, teenage pregnancies, among others. And if we leave teaching of CRE, which is part of moral formation, and it is left out, then we are saying we are missing out on a very important thing. So teaching of religious education is about formation of the human conscience and character, and it helps in solving the challenges that are mentioned above. Therefore, we are saying that religious education be compulsory at all levels in secondary schools. We are also concerned about our seminaries. We have about 23 minor seminaries across the country that they are affected by the maximum 8 subjects to be registered for UCE, which limits the seminarians to drop either CRA or Latin, which are crucial aspects of their formation and the official language of the church. The maximum number of subjects be maintained at 10 subjects. And if our education is to offer holistic formation of the human person to a great extent, we recommend that CRA be taught up to senior 4 and some exceptions be allowed in terms of numbers of languages, especially for seminary, we are making reference to Latin. The government white paper on education 1992 recommended that each secondary school have at least a teacher responsible for career guidance. Career guidance and counseling of learners be enhanced and more teachers be assigned responsible to train this service in each school. And therefore this means that even the course of guidance and counseling should be offered during the teacher training and should be enhanced further so that our schools have guidance and counseling. We are also concerned about the philosophy of education. The government white paper on education in chapter 2 explains the broad aims of education, emphasizing job creation. These aims are quite a number which need to be aligned to a particular guiding philosophy of education. And therefore, government should develop a clear philosophy of education which is understood by all in order to facilitate the provision of education in the country with focus on the integral formation. Sex education is another area that we are concerned. The Catholic Church acknowledges the need for sex education in schools, but doesn't accept the existing sexuality education framework that is in place because the content therein is not age appropriate. Definitions of terms used in the document are rather ambiguous, and there's lack of involvement of key stakeholders in the development of the framework. Sex education in schools should have a curriculum whose contents are age appropriate, clearly defined and developed by all stakeholders rather than being imposed on schools. Church ownership of schools. Between 1964 and 1971, the education system was centralized with a lot of challenges due to war, and more so, foundation bodies were phased out of management. In 1986, the Education Policy Review Commission guided the education system to cater for the foundation bodies. The Education Act of 2008 clearly spells out the ownership of foundation bodies. We are concerned about the request from government that schools on church land get a separate land title. The school land is a temporal good of the church, and the title belongs to the respective dioceses, which cannot be subdivided. Registration and land titles of schools should be under the names of the trustees, and for that matter, foundation bodies or the owners of the schools, as opposed to the fragmentation that is being emphasized by government. Foundation bodies and Ministry of Education and Sports. Foundation bodies are essential partners with government in education. Hence, they need to be valued, honored, and actively involved in key issues affecting our education sector and schools. The government white paper on education in 1992 recommends Board of Governors and management committees to be responsible for the management of secondary and primary schools respectively. There is need for a high level of transparency in representation in the ministry. The involvement of foundation bodies at the Ministry of Education serves to facilitate participation and smoothen work. More so, the spirit of corporate governance in the Education Act of 2008 be respected by all stakeholders. We're making reference to government, at the same time also the owners of the school. We are also concerned about the school account, which is another area of concern. And that of late we received a letter asking that chairpersons of schools or boards be removed from signing and supervising school accounts. This proposal doesn't augur well for the safety of school resources and accountability. We strongly recommend that such a move be stopped and we maintain the status quo where the chairpersons are signatories. We are also concerned about our relationship with government. We commend the relationship with the government, especially Ministry of Education and Sports. It is our prayer that we strengthen the relation even more as partners in the delivery of education while respecting the provision of Education Act of 2008, especially when appointing head teachers and teachers in our Catholic founded schools. We appeal that whenever new policies are being drafted, curriculum is being designed, or new initiatives are coming in place, meaningful consultations are done in the same manner as this commission is conducting itself to obtain our opinion as key stakeholders. In conclusion, the review of the government white paper on education of 1992 is a matter of critical importance to the development of the country through education. And as a result, it should be aligned to a clear philosophy whose achievement will draw on the strength and wealth of both government and actors. And this cooperation, which stems from the principle of subsidiarity, will ensure all stakeholders contribute uniquely to achieve the overall aim of education in the country with optimum resources from both public and private players. And as I conclude, these are the two documents that I said guided us in coming up with our opinion and our recommendations that we feel as Catholic Church should be included in the policy review. We shall avail these two copies to the members of the Commission for your further readings and reference. Thank you. I submit.
Thank you very much, but I would, if you have any issues you want to raise with our hosts, who are also our visitors to the commission, but on their premises, it's in the foundation body. When you're on somebody's premise, you cannot appoint the headmaster. Normally, we would invite the people of interrogation headquarters, but we thought it was more polite and respectful to meet certain bodies where it's convenient, and also it's good for us to breathe fresh air. It is your time, commissioners. Those who are ready, you indicate, yes.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much, my Lord Bishops and the Secretary, for very clear proposals. I seek clarification on the implementation of some of your proposals. The first one is on TVET. You recommend that government should equip graduates with startup capital. When you look at the structure of our TVET subjects or vocations, there are very many. There are very many institutions that churn out TVET graduates every year. How exactly would you want government to do this? Is there a priority list of vocations that government should prioritize in terms of coming up with capital? And how do you propose that this fund, if it's a fund, be managed? The second clarification I seek is on, you mentioned it under the curriculum, and your concern was about the maximum number of subjects, and therefore Latin would suffer, and also religious education becomes optional at Senior 3. While I agree with you that religious education is part of formulation of the moral fiber of a human being, we have different religions. Now, the Christian-based religions, Christian faith, have standard curriculum. The Islamic faith also have standard curriculum. And there are 4 children who might be in these schools, either Islamic or Christian faith, might have an opportunity or might want to opt into compulsory studies beyond S3. But how about children who do not come from this faith, where they are in schools of not their faith? Should they be compelled to study Islamic faith as a compulsory or Christian religious education as a compulsory subject? Isn't there a middle ground that we can come to so that, yes, we continue to build the moral fiber through Christian religious education or Islamic religious education, while maintaining the liberty of the child to opt in or opt out? I'll stop there for now and then allow other people. Thank you.
Thanks, my Lord Bishop and Chair. Mine is on issues of private schools. You propose a number of issues. Mostly you propose that government should support these private initiatives. Aware of the fact that most of these private schools, I don't know whether we are calling our foundation school private, because we need to be a bit clear about this. Most of these private schools are profit. I would really be very happy to hear what model should government take to get involved in supporting private schools or private institutions. There should be a clear model on this. Secondly, in the presentation, which came out very clearly, issues of land of foundation schools. I would take this that this is an agreed position. What would be the church proposal on how this relationship between government should be taken as an agreed position that would not deter the relationship that has been built?
And if this is to be sufficient, we are saying, why not examine them in those languages? Why teach them at only P1, P2, P3, and they drop? I know the implementation of that is more in rural areas than in urban areas. You can't implement that kind of thematic learning in cities and urban areas. But in those areas where they're teaching learners in the local language, we are proposing that let it also be examined. It may not be examined maybe at P7, but there could also be a kind of examine at the level where they stop. Maybe if it is stopped in P4, let us examine them at that level to ensure that they have learned, they have acquired the knowledge, and is helpful to them. Thank you for now. And if there's any addition from other members of the department, it's very much welcome. But for now, I stop there.
Yes, thank you very much for the clarification. And we are saying, as in my introduction, I was saying about land, we as Catholic Church, we plan things according to the mission. The mission makes us see catechesis where we build the church. Immediately the church is not separated from school. We send our catechumens to school. And then the health unit, they also must be related. The healing power of Jesus is reflected there. So in this way, when you dissect the land, now this is the one of somebody else, this is, and then how do you relate with this? For me, I see the policy of the government of aiding the school is very perfect. And if we respect that according to the Education Act, it is okay. And we consult each other, not imposing, but consult each other when you are appointing, let's say the headmaster, and we consult. Like we have been doing that consultation And we are satisfied with that. But when you change, it becomes very difficult to relate with the headmaster who has no idea of your philosophy of education and the values that you are implanting in this particular education for the children or the pupils. So that is why it's so that it is easy to bring up somebody. And too many voices when a child who is a Muslim comes to a Catholic-founded school, we are full aware that these Muslim parents are full aware. When they are coming, they are going to be broadened about Christianity, and they should learn it. They are going to become leaders of this country, which have wide perspective, not to be limited only to there. And if I send as a Catholic, I send somebody to Islamic school, he should take full knowledge of Islamic learning there. So nobody should say now, you separate them, you let the Christians go somewhere. It brings confusion in school. And this we have been experiencing, separating, dissecting children, and it made it very hard for teachers to follow. And you as teachers, you know it better than I do. So we are saying once you choose to be in that school of that denomination, be fully there and understand the system so that when you come out as a leader of the country, you are aware of what you have been learning. And don't learn it haphazardly and then begin to cause confusion. Yeah. So those are the areas we said we should really panel big to make our country flow in education smoothly, not in its sectarian fighting mode and so on. It should be a smooth flowing. Education is delicate. Yeah, thank you.
Just wanted to get some understanding on the desire to have 10 subjects for the O level. When I went through high school, we did maximum 8. And I know that there were some seminaries even at that time. The current outcry is that these children between 13 to 16, which is O level, are highly stretched out. To have moved from what was maximum 8 to 10, it started slowly thinking that the brilliant ones who can afford, so they went to 9, now it's 10, it's standard. And it's a very highly stressful environment for some of these children below 16 years. So the thinking has been, can we integrate some of the learning into the subjects so that we don't stretch this child at this level to have 10 subjects? So I'm thinking that there was a way in which Latin was taught even then, because there were 8 maximum for exams, but I'm sure all these things were taught. So I want to think that we could look back and see, how can we recoup our key things? Even the teaching of CRE actually was optional, even at my time, many years ago. But there was all opportunities in school. Morning assembly, prayers, evening mass, opportunities where children not just learn for an exam, but learn for the heart. So I would like us to look at both so that our proposals are taking care of both concerns. The second one I wanted to comment on was regarding the signing of the checks and whatever. Government puts these management governance levels, Board of Governors and School Management Committee, to kind of oversee the work of the school on their behalf and to supervise the head teacher, who in government thinking is the accounting officer in every way, for the learners, for the learning, for the school plant, and for the finances. So when they are receiving money from government, then they are kind of obliged to follow the Public Finance Act. So the governors, in that sense, are not, again, now supposed to be the signatories. In case of anything, and there is a bad audit, it should now come to the board, and the chair should have a neutral position and ask this implementer that what actually happened. But if the chair was now the signatory, it becomes a bit complicated. And in our church-founded schools, the chair most of the time is a prominent church leader. So if this prominent church leader is drawn into operations and then things go bad, and eventually he's kind of the one they are asking to account, it becomes also quite complicated. So I would like the team to think about it as well.
Permit me to also, for emphasis, to go back to the issue of the teaching of CRE, because here, for example, you have said that teaching of CRE should help in solving those challenges that have been mentioned, homosexuality, sexual abuse, and that kind of thing. But when people do research, there is no empirical evidence that acquisition of that knowledge academically helps solve those problems. And that's why even one can go to the extent of thinking that in senior 1 and senior 2, one has acquired enough values and maybe knowledge to be able to live as a perfect Catholic or a perfect Muslim, whatever. So that, but when you look at senior 3 and 4, then it is becoming more academic other than spiritual and not serving the purposes intended for. So I think, whereas I do fully support the teaching of religion, religious education in our schools and that kind of thing, the current approach by all of the regions, by the way, will not help us to deliver on that matter. So I'm just appealing the bishop that maybe your conference should continue to look at this, the methodology of doing this. Then two, you have also talked about sexuality education in schools. I'm aware, and I actually have a copy of the sexuality framework. And I have some little knowledge about issues of sexuality education in schools. And as far as an educationist, as far as I'm concerned, the current copy I'm looking at is age appropriate. Has tried to address those issues of age appropriateness, has tried to address the issues of many issues. I don't want to go into that one. But given the fact that the other day, Uganda Health Commission was celebrating something, and they issued out some statistics that 18% between 14 years and 18 years, the girls are now more affected by HIV. HIV has gone up. So because of those statistics and that kind of, I think there is need for urgency for us to look at this framework again. I know it has been coming up and down. At one time, I remember I even came to the office of Father Okero. I think he doesn't remember, but I was there. And another sister here, we discussed this framework. But the problem, I think, the meeting of the minds has not been there for us really to agree to what should be available for our learners. But just rejecting it will not help us. We need to come to an agreement on really what documents should be available to help these learners achieve the relevant knowledge. There is evidence that countries that have implemented this sexuality education properly, the statistics are not so bad, like our statistics. So for us to continue hiding ourselves that, this is a very tricky subject and that kind of thing, it cannot help our learners. And finally, permit me also to add to what Dr. Kedwes was saying about the foundation bodies. I think for quite some time, there was that misunderstanding, but the Education Act 2008, and I did participate in its formulation, tried very, very much to ensure that the foundation bodies really take control, take charge, have authority, have powers in the maintaining of the schools, because we believe that government alone cannot really manage education in the country, but we need also the support of other foundation bodies. But unfortunately, and you need to take note of this, the assumption that was made that the foundation bodies will assume the powers and the authority to be in charge of schools, I think in most of the schools has not taken root. We still see head teachers actually being in charge. Whether you give names of the members of the foundation bodies, it will be at the discretion of these teachers. And I did not see evidence when I was through there, but even today I think, when you ask the directors of education, that the foundation bodies ask the members that have been nominated to to the boards of governors to give account. So everything is left to the head teacher to give you reports whenever they want and that kind of thing. So it is that, I think that laxity that is causing some discomfort in the ministry, because what we wanted to happen did not happen, to see the foundation bodies being in charge, so that the head teachers should not increase the fees as they want, they not do everything, but at the moment they are on their own. We don't see the influence of the foundation bodies. So to the extent that matter has not been addressed, I think this complaint will continue. I thank you.
You propose that the school should fund the already existing schools in the community, the ministry. But we also have issues of indoctrination. If it is the only school in that community, then every child should go to that school, if it is the nearest, to fulfill the obligation of accessibility. But we still have the issue of indoctrination. In the name of helping the children understand the religion, sometimes some founding bodies go beyond just understanding, and the children get indoctrination. Where do we draw the line? So that when I take my child to a Muslim community or a Catholic school, they are not there to be converted. And then also, when we visited the Muslims, there was an issue that was raised about the religious symbols. When a child is not a Muslim and they go to a Muslim school, should it be compulsory for that child to dress, to put on the religious symbols? Or if they come to a Catholic church, how do we guard against them being forced maybe to use a rosary, for instance? So I would like you to comment on that. And also, there are also some people who have come up with schools, and they are typically cult. How do we guard our children from that kind of situation? And then lastly, I also want you to comment on the learning time. Our children, even in boarding schools, some of them wake up at 3 and sleep at 11 in the night. And on top of learning the academics, there are also other top-ups in the name of religion, depending on where the child is going, so that our children are pumped with there is information overload, and they are stressed almost throughout the year. What is your comment on those issues? Thank you. Chair, I submit.
Respecting, I just wanted to comment on one of those issues that came about, sexuality, sex education, that popped in. We live in a time in which boundaries are being shaken. Like, there's no man, there's no woman, there is everything in between, and different kind of practices come along with it. I think worldwide there is that challenge. There's a propaganda going on, the promotion being done in different ways. And that, I believe, is challenging our society at different levels, families and so forth, even the church above all. I think the church is even very much targeted. When we bring these programs, which never existed actually from the time the education just took form seriously in Uganda, we didn't have problems of sex education. Much of it depended on family and traditions. And now they have put it as class, they have put it with programs that are to be taught. We realize more and more that it is the very thing fueling the thing we fear most. Things like homosexuality, LGBTQ, and things like that. That, I believe, is the issue. Now, the position of the government doesn't seem to clear to us also in this. there is laxity in ways of handling it in a way that those who even direct schools, those who take care of the youth or the children, they do not have a clear policy. But for us, I think our position as church is really that this could be minimized in different ways. One is to eliminate it. One is to eliminate it because it is fueling these practices which by our doctrine of faith, I believe was our cultures, we do not really appreciate it. So that is the only thing I wanted to comment on in this other set of questions that came.
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, we had taken off in education very well because our culture of sexuality was very fundamental. Because you go to school as a woman or as a man, a girl or a boy. But now if somebody brings a doubt about you that you are neither nor, it is you to choose, and then it is academized. Academically now you are to be taught whether you are a woman or a man. You see, this has brought confusion in the Western world, and unfortunately we are taking it wholesale. And that's what is making us very sad about. Then from there, the boy child or the girl child cannot. His sex is confused. You can never contribute positively to the nation. Believe me or not, there is nobody who will succeed in our scientific development, as we are emphasizing, when our sex is confused and when it is academized. These things are related to culture and religion. They are so closely related that the person comes up and knows himself or herself as created by God. And once you doubt it, you are finished. And then two, the centrality. When we are planning our curriculum, our center is the human person. There is a shift now, Honorable. I think this is a general observation and knowledge of everybody. People have shifted from the person to money. And this has confused everything. Whatever we plan on paper. That's why, for me, the government should take a stand. When education is monetarized, finish. There is no... They teach people how to pass an exam and they are all first class and so on. But what kind of persons are they? And this, the government should come more strongly because we are not... School is not for money making. It is for really inserting values in people. And this has now revolutionized our country. You find schools in this small, I can begin my school there under a tree, and then and then it is even supported by the government. There is freedom of beginning school. No, we should not allow that, because that is the center of our proceeding, development, and life. And then if we joke with education, and then we are finished in all level. For me, there should be some restrictions on how we are. These other things like indoctrination comes and then cultic issues. But you see, we know this country, we know our Christianity. Some countries had come out with a clear policy. Unless you have a certain level of contribution, you cannot begin your church under a tree and then education and then molest that this school cannot proceed. Whether you are giving this without paying taxes, no, we are not accepting your tax. We should take a kind of strong stand because he's playing with the life. This is what we are talking about. For us, we are not talking about fighting this religion or the other religion, but what value do you offer for this country, for God and my country, and how? The methodology should be very clear. If it is tampered with, it is fake. Stop it. We are not with you. So this kind of stand for us, we are ready to cooperate with the government in all levels. But then we need also direction. Wearing a rosary is not mandatory in Catholic schools. Never. And it will never be that a child entering put on rosary. Never. Put on your uniform and go. Those who wants to put on rosary, let them put. But it is not a school uniform. A demand. Never it will be. And we have been running this education in a very clean manner. Whether you are a Muslim, when you enter there, okay, we give general values which captured all. We are not indoctrinating you, but learn it and know that you are going to be a leader somewhere in this country where for God and my country is emphasized, and know how to guide those who you are dealing with and behave with them without discrimination. And that's what we want to be. So when a school is discriminating and excessively indoctrinating people negatively against the other, the government hand is there. You say, this is wrong. You are not going in the way the country wants. Where are the values you are offering? You are offering discrimination. This one we should be outright in those kind of things. These are what policies should address so that we also address ourselves clearly with a clear, direction so that we move. That's what the Catholic Church we are really emphasizing. We want people, freedom of religion, but if you said freedom of religion, anybody of any standard can begin a religion and do it and begin to capture people, banning them and so on. This one is not a religion. So for us, we are saying government should come clearly. We must come with a policy that restricts and focus us, and so that we know where we are going and what we want to achieve. So this is, I think that is the comment about sexuality, where the person coming to serve us is either a man or a woman, must be very clear in our policy. Not a confused kind of sex come there. You don't know whether it's a man or a woman. And they are disturbing us also to have a policy to get married. How can a marriage be between a non-man and a non-woman? And then they are there, they want kind of... Those things are destructive to our life. When we must be very clear and straightforward, because it attaches the culture which affects development directly. And it affects education, as if we are joking in education. No, we are straightforward. Thank you very much.
Chair, may I beg for your indulgence? A member wants to make a submission for management, because there are still also some issues that have been raised but has not been responded to. For Monsignor Ndamira, and then Father Debo. We shall restrict it for 2 for now.
Thank you very much. Because it is within you ladies and gentlemen who have come here. You are not priests, you are not nuns. What type of education from nursery, primary school, secondary do you want for your child? What type of a person do you want to bring? Don't bring it some other ideas. You yourself, you are now responsible to run Uganda or to save it, depending on what you, Mushega, Honorable. I'm from Kavale, I'm from Kanungu, and I know you. What type of thing? You have got responsibility. Don't simply move around making research. What type of education do you want for your child? Skills or values? Secondly, another point.
We have come here to listen to you to tell us what you think. The type of education we should recommend. We have views, eh?
Okay.
Like you. So we came to listen to you. You to tell us what type of child, what type of education. Don't pass the back to me. I came with a bowl, put in food. Don't ask me what do I think.
Okay,
I know you know me and I know you. But personal issues are not involved here. We are here to listen to the Catholic Church. What type of child, what type of morals? Tell us what you want us to write down for the Uganda to follow.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. The back ends with you.
The second point is this. I am a sociologist and I love research. My brother there says evidence of senior 2, 3 is clear according to science that the children know God and know how to relationship with human beings. I am now 83. And I was baptized at 5 years. At my age of 77, and I'm golden jubilee as a priest, I still want to understand God more. I can't say now I know God, I know how to behave with my neighbors. I still need to do that. Now, senior 2, senior 3, and the evidence says you are okay, you know God. You know how to behave with your neighbor. This is very serious issue. That's what I'm saying. Are you convinced, you people here? Okay, you have come here to listen. You go to all the churches, but that is evident. Science can mislead you. God is not a science evidence. It is a growth until you die. So don't throw your children just anywhere like that. Thank you very much.
The chair of our meeting, my Lord Bishops, I first of all would like to appreciate the submissions, the exchange that has been going on, and in a particular way I would like to say, without repeating, that if you could take serious note of what the Bishop Chairman just stated. He gave explanations, but for me, I'm going to suggest or offer a simple principle, and that is understood, well understood by Catholics and the Catholic leaders. Let me put it this way. What is the purpose of the church? What is the church for as an institution? And what is the government or the state for as an institution? These two institutions work side by side, and that is the reason we are gathered here and sitting like this. And that is what was also mentioned in the presentation of the Executive Secretary for Education. This should be clear when we are making policies for education, that the church as an institution is there for the good of the people. 2, also the state as an institution is there for the good of the people. And these are the same people, although maybe in terms of religion, they are different denominations. I think the outstanding principle should be whatever we do should promote the good of the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Father Peter. Dr. Raj, I requested 2, but you can now give the last one. We have a timetable where lessons should start and where it should end. But with all the bureaus that have been opened all over the country for exams, right now I'm sure already students of P6 have completed their syllabus. The whole of next year will be exams, sitting exams from Monday to Saturday. And this is something that maybe the policy should speak about, that these exams bureaus that are all over be closed. And I'm happy with the new curriculum that learning time is going to be adjusted. By 2:45, it is done. You go down to practice, which is a good thing. But the issue of learning time is an issue that this commission should address, especially on issues of exams bureaus that are all over. And the issue of sexuality education, we need a mention of it. Dr. Yusuf, we are not against that as a church. In any case, Vatican promotes appropriate sex education. We are not against. But the issue with the current one, we raised it, and up to now, we have not yet received your response as a church. You came to us, we gave our opinion, but you remained silent. But there are issues that we have raised that needs to be taken into account. And next time when such policies are coming, it is important that you bring the key stakeholders right from the start. You don't bring us to consume what you have prepared without consulting us. And I totally agree with what you are doing. It is the right thing. so that we are part and parcel of the policy that is coming. And lastly, on the issue of the signatories, yes, we have already received complaints from a number of places, especially on the duality of the aid teacher. The aid teacher tells you, I'm appointed by government. You are not part of, I'm not answerable to you. This is government fund, I'm answerable to government. But now we have also PTA chairman who signs in the PTA account. He signs and is a signatory of the PTA. Are we also saying the PTA chairman should also back off? But let us critically understand and see what is actual in practice and what is right in principle. In the principle of corporate governance, what you said is totally correct. It is true. But what is in practice there, the 8 teachers government sends us, say we are for government. We are not answerable to you. But he is in our school. And that is why we are saying it is good to have an eye on what is happening. It may not necessarily be the chairperson board, but we could improvise a situation whereby somebody within the system is having a look of what is happening within the schools. Many schools have cried. When they steal from here, they are shifted. We have no control of recovery. So maybe before it is stolen, why don't we have an eye on it so that we safeguard it? Thank you. I can take it back to the chair of the commission.
The identity of anybody in terms of African nature is the language. If you find Africans that went to the Caribbean and they no longer speak their African languages, they are speaking English, called the Caribbean English. When you ask them, are you African? They say, we are not. So the color is not very much what identifies us as Africans. But the language seems to be very critical in our identity. If we lose language, whether small or whatever, I think the identity of Africa will be phased out. And you probably know that many children in Kampala here are unable to speak African languages. And I have heard from your comment is that you are saying that the language be taught but thoroughly examined. I was wondering whether it should not be, people should be competent to speak the language. We don't struggle to harass people to pass examinations of languages. Let them speak the language and retain the identity. And after that, use that language which they need to learn the science. Teach them more on the language they need to do business and so on. That is comment 1. Comment 2 is protection of children. The Constitution has said that when we clock 18 years, at that point, everybody knows you are adult and you are competent to handle each and everything. But when I start at year 1, I'm a baby. I really don't know. I'm depending on people. Primary, I'm depending on the teacher and the parent and so on. How much should we really allow any knowledge to float around, to be pumped into the children who are not yet able to decide on their own? But there's so much knowledge in the TV, all that is education everywhere. So there's education, formal, informal, and non-formal. And these are all recognized. So I wanted to hear your comment, because we are pumping a lot of knowledge into the reference centers of the children before they are. And by the time they are 18, they are already thinking differently. Is there something you want to comment on this? or you feel it should be open, let anything go into the child. The third, during COVID, it became clear that school is not only these schools we have been talking about where the foundation bodies are located. People continued to learn online, at home, using other ways. Meaning that the traditional system which has been discussed very much here is not resilient when it comes to shock. Which means now that the other methods of learning which helped us to move on during the tough times should be recognized. Is this something you would want to consider? What are your views on that? That a home is also now a learning center, and some guideline should be put. Online is a way and should be put, not just saying everybody should come to this school where we have a foundation body. And lastly is about learning about nature. Shouldn't we move away from all these things which I've had a lot of discussion about, and we filter a framework on learning about nature? It used to be there, nature studies. God is there. Gender is there. Instead of spending time debating so much the sexuality thing disturbing us, we change it. We talk about learning nature, how to harness God's opportunities and presentations to us, learning all this diversity, and then a framework is developed so that we shift the debate from just a small section of nature which has dominated education and is bringing us into a discussion, breaking us. But learning about nature is the discussion now. We kill the plants, now people are talking about climate change. So isn't it good to focus on nature, and we have a framework for that, and absorb all these discussions? What is your view on that? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. At the beginning of the presentation, you mentioned that there is a philosophy of education for the Catholic Church. You mentioned that. And my question is, are we able to be enlightened on what that philosophy is? And you also did urge us that we should come up with an education philosophy for the country. But where do these two merge? I would like to know more about that particular philosophy. And I know that there's been a split thinking where now we know that there's the secular and the sacred, and yet education affects both the domains of the secular and that of the sacred. While we are planning for our country, and that in light of the interests of the Catholic Church, is it part of the development of the minds of the children to think about our development as a country in light of our dominion God has given us, to look after the resources and to multiply them, as Professor alluded to that, for Ugandans' growth? Where are we? And then you also mentioned that that it is important that the headmasters or headmistresses that are sent to the Catholic-founded schools should really, the big consideration should be put to them being of the Catholic faith. And is there a link between belief and productivity? What are we helping the children to understand as basic citizens of this country and people that have the responsibility to develop the country, to be part of productivity and helping Uganda grow?
I am standing for reason. One is that first and foremost I am conflicted. Because the presentation of the church is my presentation. But I just want to get a few credit on other things because I agree with all the rest as a person. And the way I was taught, I wouldn't disagree anyway. I just want clarity. Examinations. What is the position of my mother church on examinations? We have been hearing all these stories, seeing children taking their lives. As the education secretary has said it, in P7 we are just examining, we are regurgitating, and there are views in this country that we should eliminate the P7 exam. And the reasons behind that, people are saying that P7 does not even help. It's not even a certificate that you use many times. I don't have it, but I am a doctor of economics. I don't use it anywhere in an exam, in an interview. Never. How many of us use the P7A certificate? If it was politics, I would have won. So the point is then, why have an exam? If basic education is the first years of study from nursery to senior 4, why should you have a terminal exams in the middle of a system? People are making that argument. And I would like to hear from my mother church what you think about this. Because I'm persuaded by those people. I am only waiting for the voice of my mother church. And I am so persuaded that I think that this exam has even turned into not even an exam. It is a selection exam. It's not an assessment. It only helps me to go to Busoga College Muiri, the school I went to. I would have loved to go to Namirianga, I didn't make it. But that's the point. People are just using it. It helps you to go to Namagunga, to Weya, to Budo. There is no other use of this exam. So I would like to hear from my mother church what your view is. Then the other issue, we have gone through the country, and particularly Busoga, I know the whole country. And we have schools with 3,000 kids. 3,000. Of all denominations. But when it comes to lunchtime, only 100 are eating. And when you ask them, what do you do during lunchtime? They say, we go and take some water. Another one told us we go and eat some umpeo when our friends are eating. What is the view of this of the church on government taking up feeding of children? Because every time we talk about it, it is too expensive. Every time, I now know your view on early childhood. You are saying we should append it to the schools because it is that important. Yes, and I totally agree with you. Now on the issue of feeding, what is the view of the church? Should we continue that those who have can eat and the others watch? And then in the afternoon, they are taken to class and massacred without eating. So for me, those are the two areas which I need to get clarity from you. As a person, I'm a chairman of the board of one of the biggest schools. And I know what head teachers do without our signatures sometimes. I had a head teacher who created debt of 900 million through invoices. And thereafter, the person retired and got a retirement benefit. So for me, I think there should be a way of checking these teachers. Secondly, they are the ones who appoint the boards in most cases. It also creates a problem. So for me, those two are very critical for us, such that we can see what your major voice, what you say matters. Thank you very much.
First of all, is it working? They use the holy one here. First of all, let me emphasize that we have come here to learn. That's the main mission. Number two, you don't have to answer every question we have raised. You can go back and reflect on them and write another document, and then we are ready to come back and have another dialogue. Because we are not government, we are commissioned by government to find out what is wrong and recommend what should be done. So the recommendations will be coming from the people we meet. But today is your turn. So I'm concerned also. One is raised by Irene, the philosophy of education. Can you avail us your philosophy and also write, because that's for Catholic, what you think should be the philosophy of education for Uganda, so that we marry it with other philosophies and come out with something that represents the views of Ugandans contributed to by different philosophies. That one you don't have to answer today. I think it will be unfair to you. But your copy you can email to us. Secondly, you have to mention what the government do, what the government should do, what the government... I rate it what I meet in public, government at Yambe, government at Guarechino, but I would be interested as chairperson of this commission to get your own proposals, what you think also in those things of running private schools, church land, what should the church role should play in its management and also financing, because our education was largely financed by wherever the resources came from through the church. What do you think should be the role of the church for us to consider and recommend to government? My third concern is about artificial grades. I have been a student, it wasn't there, but I've been a parent with children going to these schools. Now I see my grandchildren suffering the same. Whereby some schools where the chairperson is a bishop, it doesn't apply in the Catholic Church, but he's a reverend father, he's an eminent Catholic or Muslim or Church of Uganda, and the school is eliminating children who are admitted on merit in senior one. They eliminate them in senior one, they eliminate them in senior two, that you are not suitable for this school, go elsewhere. So that at the end of the senior 4, senior 6, everybody is grade 1. They even go and poach in the neighboring school, a grade 1, because these are normally done by the schools which are prominent. And a good number of them are run by religious schools. But it's not my idea to mention. What should the church do? Because a child has come to school to learn. And you came to school to teach. But when I look that I'm not learning fast enough, you send me away back to my parents. So what's the role of the school? And what I think there you should come with concrete proposals, whether this should be allowed to continue, people to have artificial grade 1s, artificial A's, by eliminating those who have spoiled the broth. Because I remember when I was in school, if you started primary one, senior 1 in a school, it was, you are not expert, you ended up in that school. And some could get 54. 54 was 99 in 6 subjects. Yeah, it could happen. It could happen in Budo, it could happen in Gayaza Kisubi. Now it is not possible. Because all those potential, it's like coming to the hospital when you are beyond, they think you can't be treated, say go home and die there. So I would like to know what the church, because this is a reality. It is happening, but when we are quiet together, I can mention the schools because it's not proper. Otherwise, I may be charged. And the issue of UNEB, which my brother has also raised. Really, children carrying bags at 6 in the morning, they come home for homework, and making everything examinable. Recently, I was visiting a school where my nephews are studying, and the teacher said they want to teach PROE and make it examinable. But we learned not everything you do in life has been examined. Real life is not daily examination. It is daily practice. So this issue of really your neighbor, everything you do must be examined. If not examinable, it's put on the side. Are we our children to helping our children to be future thinkers, Because once you remove the Quran work, and they're on their own, there will be a problem. The one I want to raise, which I've examined throughout my life, I've asked when we were with the Muslim faith, I asked the question, and the Church of Uganda, I think I should ask you the same. A concern you could go and address. When I was young, that's more than 60 years ago, only Father Maramera has challenged that position. The churches we used to be open, they left the windows open. The primary school to went to, the shutters were not there. Homes, you could leave your home open and anybody could pass by. Even when I was at university, to park a vehicle in Gambara Road and sometimes forget the key and come back and find the car. And yet there are very few churches when I was young, and there were very few mosques, and there were very few fathers. I'm from near Chitabi, where there's that seminary. If we are passing by Chitabi Seminary as kids, we are told those fellows are singing so hard that don't make noise. So the people have footballs and walk really fearing to reach the wrath of God, and then we get somewhere, half a kilometer, we start being children. Now I see people really passing by as if there is no. So, but this high moral behavior, very, very high. I remember when I was young, if the Catholic priest would pass by, would come, hey, have good morning, Father. He's on the way back, welcome back. And I was not a Catholic. There was that self-respect for each other. Homes were not closed. Churches were not surrounded by walls. Windows were not full of shutters. I'm asking it as a question you will not answer now, but think through it. Now we have more priests, we have more churches, we have more mosques. There is a priest in every corner. Yet the morals have, in my observation, deteriorated. If you leave even one time, I've been to church when Rebecca Baring, they praying for the cardinal then, and they said, please hold your bags and hold your money. Don't give money to only those who are wearing this uniform. So even in church, you are not sure that you are safe. And you go to mosque these days, they take the shoes off, put in a bag and give you a card. What is happening? And the people doing this, when the president is appointing people in the church, they are complaining that there are not so many Catholics, so many Protestants, so many Muslims. Nobody is asking about how many good men or good women are there. Yet I know in the Catholic Church, the question of character is central. Even if you are the best preacher, but you have no character, your moral values, you can easily be advised to do something else. So this is something I don't want you to answer me today, but you can look into it. What do we do to bring that? If you are in England, if you are in Germany, if you are in America, people they don't have walls around homes. Cars can be left open, yet we who are highly moralistic. You leave your phone, even the women are once off, your bag, you turn around, the bag has gone, whether you are in church or. Yet schools have expanded, teaching religion, religious bodies have expanded, but the moral behavior has dived. And it's a serious concern. So what do we do as a people, as you, the leaders from the other side, and the parents? Parents participate in the cheating of exams for their children to get a grade. And you wonder if you cheat for the child to be a doctor, and then you admit it and you open your eyes before they put the anesthesia on you. You see this doctor, don't you die before you are operated? So I would like you to help me on that. It's an observation I've seen in my lifespan, and if I go without asking it, it will be not fair to the God who created me and gave me some little wisdom and thinking. So that's a concern. You are talking about we must start religion. because it's central to a moral society. But the more we get, the opposite results. Schools eliminate children because they are not going to get grade 1. So where do they go? So those are the issues I wanted you to help me with. And as I said at the beginning, you don't have to answer every concern we have raised. You can answer some because it's not an examination. And then later on give us your thought processes and help us as a commission to write a report and recommendations to government that will reflect the thinking of Ugandans and recommendations for doing things which every Ugandan, a majority of them, will be ready to receive and put in practice. I thank you very much indeed.
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable. Your reflection captures the whole reason why we are here. Question about food and other things. I think you were one of those in the 50s before the Uganda was born. You know what the church advocates. What we call peke in our language up there. The child must come with the food prepared by the already in our education. I moved from very long. It was packed there. You come with it to school. Either you roast cassava in your shoe during break and then to help you continue. This was already there. Except now we are in a monetarized society. It has revolutionized all the teaching, even the teaching of the church. That's why you are getting, even a thief comes to steal in the church. You don't know who is a thief. The bishop cannot tell, but everybody has come to church you. But the aim of this person is to steal. In schools, in our documents of the church, which we call Vatican II document, already it was told the parent is the first educator. Never neglect a parent. That's why there is a PTA, so that they come and make sure they follow their children. The issue of the child eating in school was already promulgated before our independence by the church. This is not an issue for us. But the revolution is the issue. How do we with the state address this revolution and come to a common point that identity of a Ugandan is addressed? That's the issue. But the church had spearheaded all these things in a very harmonious way, systematic way. We went and got what in the school? Values. It is values that last, not examination. You know, examination is an accountability as we are here. Actually, we are examining ourselves without knowing. This is examination. But we have mythologized it in such a way that if you fail, then no future for you. And everybody is panicking in every sector when they hear, this is the exam, the child is finished. It has become a mythology that I must pass, I must do this. And this, it is all up to us to make it look something which is an accountability. You need to do accountability. I've taught you. Can you give accountability that what I have taught you is understood? But when you begin, you give money for exam first. The teacher who is being paid also said, I cannot mark your exam until I'm facilitated. A monetarized world has killed everything. The church used to pay people even very little money. Most of the things you do, you are given a farmland to implement, to supplement your budget, and things were going on. But teaching was a vocation, not a place where you are going to get money. A teacher is like a priest or a religious. He's coming because God called him to be a teacher. God called him to be a medical doctor or a nurse. You don't get much money there. But with the revolution of everything, money, I'm going, hey, if you want me to go and bring this, where is the money? Everything in terms of money. And this has monitorize even examination. If you have high grade, big job, you will be appointed. You are a clever man, a clever woman. They see you, and then people are fighting for high marks without being educated. Hence, we have corruption beyond measure. You cannot stop somebody from stealing. Why? Because I've come here to get money. Because I am a highly educated person, my paper, you look at my paper. I set one who came for an interview in my office with very beautiful all AA. They want to be in charge of Caritas and so on. I'm a good Catholic. What? I said, this one is very good. But sit near my desk here. I'm doing something. Write for me the same application beautifully. Put it now in handwriting. You sit here and do it while I'm doing something else. He was at a loss. I said, in case my presence is intimidating you, I put you with the secretary in another room. And then you try to write for me your application you intended to. He failed. He said, Bishop, I cannot do it. I said, why? Why? He said, somebody else wrote it for you? And with all these AAs and so on you cannot even write a statement. What has happened? That one really gave me a deep. This is a person who has passed all exam in A level. Cannot write what he thought was well typed in his own writing to me, because I doubted whether that was written by him. And if these are the caliber of people whom we are producing, what I begin to say, how are we going to be helped in this country? There is something fundamentally wrong somewhere. What are we going to do? So the questions we have raised here are really pertinent issues which is paying the church as well. We are talking of philosophy. We gave those two papers. That's the philosophy of how we operate. We gave them already. Go and study it and see how we think. Maybe you can take a point or two if you find it worth. And then we try to go together and try to do something. But otherwise, something has gone wrong because education is being tampered with on monetary issues. All focus is on money. Even for a teacher to be promoted to a head teacher, he must pay heavily. These are facts which all of us know. If you want to be recruited from the teacher education school, to be accepted, you must pay money. In Lira, it was costing over about 3 million. A teacher told me, now all of us gave 3 million, but only a few were taken. My money went. I said, but how much are you going to raise that 3 million to pay back to the person you borrowed in order to be recruited a teacher? And this is in the docket of education. I said, no, this must not, you should not have done that. Don't pay money. It is better you leave. If they are not recruiting you, don't. Next time, don't do that. So there is a lot of things that is making people to get high papers and so on. A lot of corruption, which I don't know how we shall come out of it. And this is affecting education, which is really the key to success in every level. Every level. Your cry is correct, but issues of language, this is in our docket. The language in the city here, children begin straight in their English and so on. When they go in the village, they don't know how to speak to their grandmothers and fathers there, unless you went to school. But they are proud that they are in the city. But now, which language, if we are to be taught from P1 to to P3 in our local language. I don't know which local language you will choose from this person working in the ministry from Lira, and he will be forced to learn now in Uganda or what? Which language, which teacher is going to teach. And most of the teachers, they don't know their own language. When I mentioned my name to Honorable Lamanya Mshege, he wrote it correctly. Because if I learn my language correctly, he mentions his surname. I write it without asking, what is the spelling? And you pronounce it. Maybe the tone and so on, but you will know how to read it. This is what we are about. But it needs, a child needs to, vernacular teachers used to teach us in the primary. For me, I went to primary in the age of 10 years already. Imagine primary 1, 10 years. This one, we are the P.O. box. But the teacher gets you, the vernacular teachers, you have to learn the things systematically. This time it is a waste of time. A teacher will not take that time unless he's paid extra money. But what is the use of your salary? These are all puzzling things which has revolutionized everything. Why extra money? You are in charge of sport. Where is the facilitation for me to be in charge of sport? What is going on here? These are things where they are foreign to the church thinking. For us, we say you are to offer yourself, you are there, a teacher, you must be a parent. How much is a parent paid for going in the field and coming back cooking for you food? How much do you pay? This is how the church is, a family. A school is a family, imparting values to our children. But all this now is in that revolution. We are thinking together. We are saying, as the search committee trying to come with something, this is our view also we are giving. You are in better position to write now in a systematic and educational way, thinking of what is my child going to be? The question raised by father there. Because I want my child to be somebody of integrity. But if he is a rowdy, making strike left and right and fighting in the parliament, what kind of child is this now? What have I produced? Education has failed. Recently the Pope says, why are people fighting? There is no education. You take arm and fight because education has failed somewhere. That's why people are fighting. Can we eliminate this? So all these are points for reflection. As the Honorable has said, we are not supposed to give answers to everything, but we have raised issues which needs to be addressed, and some of it to guide the policy in such a way that we become part of the journey of education. From our parents should know their role. Teachers know their role. We, stakeholders, different religions, they should thoroughly be inducted to know their role when a new policy is promulgated. Before you open your mouth and go in the class and so on, be inducted so that we are in the same page all the time. So our cry is your cry, and we would like really to move together. And for us, we are very grateful and humble. I think I'm sitting for the first time in this kind of consultation, and I'm very much humbled by your coming here so that we can air our views, and you know how we think in the Catholic Church, and we have given this, some of it we have reflected here, but the details are in those philosophy of education, and then the answer to some of the government papers, which I think Honorable has been very central to it, and we have given some of this opinion. On behalf of the Catholic Church, we are very grateful, And we would like to end it here, thanking you, and we shall continue, proceeding with more question and answers. You see, Dr. Raj wanted to make a comment, but we suppressed him because when the big drum is sounding, the small one remains in a corner. But since he is for the medical, maybe he wants to make a short comment, and then maybe we conclude.
Maybe before you conclude, finally, I know the chair has already concluded, but I thought I should make a little remark as such also. What you are dealing with is a very crucial issue in human life, as we know, and I'm happy that we are all engaged in it, putting our best. I wanted just to start from my background. I am a Komboni missionary. I'm a Komboni missionary, and our founder, Komboni, took education as mission. As it was mentioned at the very beginning, that the church looks at schools as part of its mission, as an instrument of evangelization, and that could not be detached. And Komboni considered that the greatest resource of the congregation that he founded, the greatest, was not money, was the human resource. It is in and through the persons that are prepared that the mission can be carried out. So he took it upon himself seriously to make sure that there are good schools that could form what he called gallant uomo. Gallant uomo means a gentleman. I think our schools need to prepare gentlemen, those who tomorrow will really serve us with dignity, those who can honor themselves, those who will not leave themselves carried out in doing nasty things that destroy human life. And that is precisely what we have in the philosophy of education as Catholics, to preserve that honor, the image of God in us. Actually, we educate so that human soul may not degenerate by power of sin into something that God will not recognize anymore. God wants his image to be seen in you and me as a son and daughter, not like the son of a devil. So this is the focal point for us in the church, that the image of God is the focal point. And as a matter of fact, all education institutions focus on the human person to be carried to that level. And I think this is a very model for us. We have been talking about many things which are important, and we consider that maybe with time we shall articulate them to foster further dialogue and the conversation among ourselves. Some of the things for sure, there are matters of practice that we can carry forward, like meals and so forth. I remember John Paul II, St. John Paul II was a pope for a long time, which I believe most of you still remember vividly. He made some statements that it is very hard to evangelize somebody with empty stomach. It's very hard to evangelize empty stomach person. And somebody else added that it is even very hard to evangelize somebody who is empty in the mind. And so those two things, I think, are the focal considerations in all activities, in all exercises that we consider education. Education comes through media or some medium, language, which we have talked about. In the history of humanity, we know that the colonizers used language. When it was the Greek Empire, Greek was the language of studies and so forth and so forth. When the Romans came, it was Latin. And this has remained with the church. Again, these languages are not really ordinary language, they are very classic. For those who do sciences, serious sciences, I think these two languages will help us to deepen some of the concepts, including education itself. When we are talking about education, the way the Latin people look at education, I believe should be known by all educators, all policymakers. In Latin, education is educere, which means to bring out the knowledge, the energy, the capacity, the potentialities of the person out, educere. And that is, I think, what we are striving at, to bring out the best in something. But again now, what kind of policy is going to make this possible? What kind of policy is going to make this possible? Many things have happened all over the years in our time, and I think we need to deal with them, and deal with them rather squarely too. I consider one thing that probably did not come out very clearly in this conversation. We are talking of education of people of our time, but how do we know the state, the disposition of people of our time? We call ourselves as moderners, modern people. I remember my elder brother was studying in a secondary school, modern secondary school somewhere in Kampala here. And he used to boast, he used to say, you see, I'm a modern person. All the others are not modern, and not to be modern means you're not civilized. That's how he took it. Because he knew how to eat with a fork and knife, and he knew how to put on socks and so forth. Modern person looked differently. But again here, it is something that should draw attention to the history of civilization of humanity. It's somehow global, but now we feel, and at least I feel, that it touches our life very seriously. We are dealing with a modern person. And what are the characteristics of modern person? What has happened to make our time be called a modern time? That is creating now some kind of crisis in all levels, all different aspects, all the dimensions of our life. What is this modernity we are talking about? And this, I believe, should enter in our consideration as we make policies. First of all, we know that the modern time was a breakage from a community that was, a society that was community-centered and moving it to individual. And so we know why when you're talking about individualism, the origin is the breakage from the community to the individual. And where there is individualism, there's greed, there's competition, and we cannot be surprised that we have now corruption, which we can't erase. Because everybody is finding himself, herself alone, is striving to get his life on the platform. So the movement to modernism is a very crucial historical thing that has affected education to a level that even the human soul is now distorted to the level that we may not understand. Modernism, once again, threw away the authority upon ourselves. Threw away authority. A modern person doesn't want somebody to be above, doesn't want to make reference to another, not even to parents. That's why it becomes very crucial for us to say, how do we manage our children? It's not so easy. Parents complain, schools complain, everybody's complaining like the young people are escaping our attention and we can't reach them anymore. So the understanding of modernism should be the starting point of our reflection, because this is the person you are dealing with, a modern person, a person who is influenced by the philosophy of modernism that promoted individualism, has eliminated any sense of authority. In order to make rules work, we need to multiply the rules. That's why every time we are going for seminars, to see how we can tighten the line. Because when you leave somebody alone, so corrupt, it will not work for you. It will work for himself or herself. So corruption is not a surprising thing indeed, if we really understand what modernism has brought into the world. Has promoted science, has promoted technology, and everything is replacing the human person. Work is being done by machines, by the techniques that humanity has brought, but the human person is sent aside, and that human person is anxious, is afraid. We live in great fear. We don't trust anybody. We don't trust easily the person. And this is the people we are educating. These are the people we want to form. And it is important today that this conversation should take us a little more in the history of what has influenced so far the trend of development, what we call development. And we know what development is all about today. It's more structural development than the development of the mind and heart as such. And this is where we miss the point. When you talk of development, we are looking at structural developments. What about the human person? How developed are we? Are we gallant woman, a gentleman, honest and noble person, honorable? Sometimes it's difficult to call people honorable these days. Because when they do horrible things, how can you call them honorable? We are challenged. We are challenged. We are challenged by that. So education has to address these issues. And we should not go on the surface. I think we need to go to the depth. The church has that tradition to protect and foster the image of God in the human person because we know the origin. We come from God. And we are going back to Him. We shall not be restful unless our souls and hearts rest in Him. This is a conviction. Now, if we want to contradict it because of other ideologies, it is up to us. But as a church, we really recommend and wish that our considerations, like the human person who is like my brother because he's bearing the image of God, stand strong with us. So, Honorable Amani Mushaga was saying that he wonders why the moral behaviors in these days, in spite of the increased number of churches, increased number of preachers and priests and bishops and so forth, has gone high. I believe the question is the modernism that has brought a culture that escapes attention of many of us. We are moving on development which is not person-focused. The person is forgotten in the system. The person is forgotten in the system. And if Uganda, if the church wants to carry it forward and makes the image of God still be a consideration in our policies, then I think we shall be on the right track. But forgetting that, I still remain afraid. But we have presented our talk, our thoughts to you, and I pray that as we move forward with the reflections, we may really feed the people wholly. We feed the stomach, we feed the mind with the right things, with the right content. This is what is important. Because we may have a good policy which appears like the frame of a photo without a picture inside. Beautiful, but where's the picture? We want the content well defined. May God help us in this journey of reflection. And it is my joy that today, as we meet with the team that is working on policies on education, is with us. And as we start our journey together, I pray that this cordial conversation and encounters may continue to move us forward, and we also continue to listen to one another attentively. I think there's richness in traditions, there's richness also in newness. So let us look at what can enrich us and strengthen us to improve things of today. But otherwise, there is education going on, and Uganda is blessed. Uganda was one of the best in East Africa in terms of education. Most of the great people were educated in Uganda. Some of them are dead, but they were educated in Uganda, like Mwai Kibaki and so forth. They were great people. And they talk well about Uganda. But today is not the same thing. I don't know why, but we need to answer the question. We have missed the point somewhere. We have gone out a little somewhere. And I think this is maybe what you want to look at, and this is also the purpose of this conversation. So with this, I will say, let us keep reflecting. Keep reflecting. Our papers are with you. Our policies are with you. It can be enriched, it can be expounded, and everything else will be fine. as we go along. So with this, I say thank you, and we hope to continue next time. God bless.
So members, let us conclude this sitting. Yeah. Let us conclude with the prayer. May we stand up to stretch our muscles a bit. Yeah. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Father God, we thank you. You are the only educator, and you have proposed for us to use the nature and care for it. The center of everything you drove to us and you. We are looking for a way how to care for your people here in Uganda, to form a guideline that you will be in it, so that knowing you, we may guide the people appropriately, well educated, well informed, to know and praise you and serve each other with love, with patience and hospitality. We ask you to bless our effort and bless each one of us. And as we go, the journey mercies you accompany us in our different places of thoughts and actions and guidance to the people. And let all this be done through Christ our Lord. The Lord be with you. May the Almighty God bless you, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Thank you very much.